USC are the two big ones.
USC looked good yesterday. Put that true freshman in. He looked dope.
Bro, he was slinging it. And Michigan State got a good football team too.
Yes, they do.
So those are the two that come to mind. They also have Boise, Utah State.
Okay.
And then they got some other.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. It just popped up instead of we're live. Okay. Okay. All right, gentlemen. We are there in 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to the Agents of Recovery podcast. It's good to have you all here. This is Coach Blu Robinson. I want to say thank you for downloading, sharing, and subscribing to the podcast. We appreciate you doing so. By the looks of the numbers, looks like we've had something happen to have people jump on there and start listening. I don't really know why, but they're live. They're coming on. Please jump on, give us a review, and reach out through our social media pages. We're Twitter, we're Facebook, we're all that and then some. I want to welcome with open hearts. I want to welcome my teammates here, the other agents of recovery. Brock Bevell, how's it going, my man?
What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in. This will be exciting.
Absolutely, it's going to be. And of course, Max Hall. Max, how's it going, brother?
Man, things are great. It's good to see you guys, man. It's always good to see you every week. We got a live show today. I mean, let's have some fun, man.
Let's have some fun with it. Absolutely. And at the helm, we have the athletic director of Team Addict Athlete, Blu Robinson. How's it going? She's going to be the traffic cop to make sure we can get people in and out if you have questions.
The behind the scenes technical support.
Yeah.
Right?
So all you who are jumping on, follow the Zoom link to the webinar. And if you have a question you'd like to ask the Agents of Recovery, all of us combined, Marissa can pull you over, or you can listen to it through the channel that we provided. So thank you all for being here. We're going to talk we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Lots of stuff. There's been some interesting happenings in social media. Starting September 11th during the rivalry game of BYU versus the University of Utah, which is kind of an interesting rival. Max, you've done a couple podcasts, and I love the fact that you'd mentioned that this rivalry is probably one of the better ones in college football, just because of the longevity of the whole thing, and the differences that are just a few miles apart, but nonetheless passion there. And when passion kind of meets, let's say like dedication, sometimes intense things happen. But we wanted to talk today about some situations, about our thoughts on things, specifically with the premise to bring more than just awareness, but action to mental health, addiction recovery, and kind of like some redeeming things. So I say we jump right into it. There should be just a small recap, and just so you guys know, most of the listeners and viewers are going to understand what's happened, just because they've been in tune. Most of the fans that are on this page also follow you in the football career. But just in the Cliff Notes version, Max, you want to share with the listeners kind of some aha moments that we've had, and maybe a little bit about what happened?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you brought up the rivalry. BYU Utah is not only one of the greatest rivalries in college football, it's one of the most heated rivalries. Like yeah. You said, people are very passionate about it. And I don't know if it's just the state, there's religion involved. The schools are so close to each other. I mean, house is divided in Utah, right? Between the red and the blue. So there can be some ugly things that happen because of it, and there can be some really good things. 90%, in my opinion, of what happens is good.
Yeah.
Okay. I think for the most part, I mean, there's some bantering and there's some going back and forth, but it's never really too personal. So we experienced something after the game that was a little bit personal, a little bit too far. And so, my story and everything that's happened to me since BYU and my addiction and arrest, and then my path to get sober has been a long journey, right? And the sobriety part of it has been 7 years now, okay, that I've been working with myself. I'm a completely different person right now than I was even 12 years ago when I was playing for BYU, or 7 years ago when I was arrested and trying to figure out what was next. I'm a different person. I'm a family man. I try to do my best as a husband and a father. I focus on myself and recovery. We got this podcast together. I got a lot of different things going on in my life that I'm trying to help and bless the lives of others. So, having said that, to bring up the worst part of my life and arrest and mugshot and all that, just didn't settle right. And I don't think it was right, especially after the time that it has passed. And
Yeah.
whether I like it or not, because of if you want to call it fame or whatever from playing college and NFL football, I've become a little bit of a spotlight on addiction. And I feel like I represent a lot of people who have either gone through addiction or know somebody, or guys like you who are helping people trying to get through addiction. I've been put into that spotlight. And so what we want out of this whole thing that happened this week, and yeah, the guy made the shirt, he made fun of me, which, he shouldn't have done. But at the end of the day, we're shedding a lot of light on addiction and recovery, because like I said, this hits home with almost everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody that I've talked to, and the messages that I've gotten, the calls and texts and everything, they know somebody, and it's personal to them. It hits home. So this has been a great opportunity for us for people to focus on that, what we're doing here at Agents of Recovery. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what happened, Blue.
Yeah.
I know we've talked a little bit throughout the week, but I'm interested to get your guys' opinion and view on this whole thing, kind of looking a little bit from the outside in, but also knowing me personally and what we do together. So
for sure. If you don't mind, maybe I'll kick off just for a second, because once I let Brock on the mic, we probably won't get much more time, Max. This man
like Ric
is
Flair right now. Dude.
This man is passionate. So I woke up that Monday, reading your wife Kenzie's. I read her Twitter that Marissa was like saying, "Look at this." So I didn't really know what it was until like all of a sudden, like our podcasting, I guess provider, who is the Radio Ronin network that we belong to, Josh Hansen said, "Hey, check this out." And then that's when I first started understanding the situation. And the thing that bothered me the most is, you guys, we've been doing this since January, this Agents of Recovery podcast. We've had a lot of interaction with the fans. We've had a lot of interactions online. Myself with Team Addict to Athlete, 10 years of really advocacy and understanding about erasing addiction and replacing it with things of greater value. Brock and his Chase the Vase efforts and everything that he's done. Collectively, we have put a rather, I think, positive, vibe on the addiction recovery world. And the whole concept of even this podcast existing is to bring awareness to a point, but then bring action. And it's sad how much work still has to be done. I messaged Brock with the story right after I received it and said, "Looks like we still have a lot of work to do." And yeah, we do. I think still the ignorance of that concept that Max just talked about, specifically about how everyone who's listening to this podcast, who was at that game on Saturday, September 11th, or who's listening to this right now, has at least one person in their life that struggles with some kind of addiction, chemical dependency, pornography, overeating. Everyone does. Yet we still have people that don't understand the bare bones of it enough to say, this isn't just a moral choice. This isn't just a decision to want to one day stop using. This is a huge issue. And at a time where, like we've talked about, we lose 93,000 plus people a year, 255 a day, 10 an hour to addiction and addiction overdose. It was super bad timing. And the whole goal of what we wanted to do with the social media post was to bring more understanding. The thing that truly bothers me is the individual involved is still chose to hide. And one thing we've talked about is we don't want cancel culture. I hate that more than anything, but I do think there's something specifically positive about bringing dialogue. Even if someone's done something that's completely out of the line, we've done it. We've done it with each other when we haven't been able to hit a podcast, we're not recording. We don't blame shift. We be accountable to it. And I think that's the thing that bothers me. It's like we make mistakes, but being accountable isn't just saying sorry from afar. It really is making change. And so that's one thing that Brock and I first said too, is like, how do we bring more than just awareness, but also kind of throw down that gauntlet of let us teach you. In fact, Max, in your response letter, you specifically said that beyond all of this, we want you, sir, who has a position of pretty decent authority in some realms, to learn more about what it is that was being mocked. So Brock, as I throw that to you and you started digging into it, here we go. Take the mic, brother.
Yeah,
what did
man.
you see? What did it make you feel?
First of all, I mean, to be honest with you, I felt fired up, man. Like I felt fired up for for Kinsey, because I know her personally. I know the battle that she went through as a mother, as a wife to Max. I mean, she had to carry. She went through it 100. And then it took me further into the lives of, I mean, I'm getting chills just thinking about this, of all the lives that have been affected by addiction. And you said it correctly, Blue. It's ignorance. Ignorance, we look at it, oh, that's an offensive word. No, it's not. It's lack of education. Right. That's all ignorance means. This guy, the process of this is what pisses me off. We all need this spiritual advisor in our life. Okay. My wife sometimes says, hey, maybe you shouldn't say that. Maybe you shouldn't wear that. We have those people that say, hey, before you go and get too riled up, hey, let's back up. I know Max did that to me in this. I wanted to say more. And Max took the high road and said, hey, let's hold off. I respect Max enough. And I said, hey, let me back up. Now, a couple of frustration things that I had is, number one, like you said, the shirt was super offensive. It went beyond the rivalry. All right. It went beyond the fact that now you're bringing it into a world that you don't understand. You know nothing about recovery. You know nothing about addiction. And I don't know the guy. I don't dislike the guy. I think he was a poor choice. And what I wish would have happened, okay, in a perfect world, this guy would have taken ownership and said, you know what? I own that. That was a mistake. I am ignorant. And what can I do to make it right?
Teach me.
And teach me. And when Max sent that letter out saying, hey, we want to invite you out. Come meet some of the people. Come speak to these moms and dads that have lost their kids. Come walk the streets with me so you can see what active addiction looks like. So you can no longer be ignorant. You can be educated and still make that decision. The fact that it was Max's face on it, that's my friend. I wanted to go punch him in the face. But that's your initial thought, right? Because we care about each other.
Yeah.
And I know the battle that Max went through. So it's a community. It's a team, man. And I feel like if Max is hurt, I'm gloving up. I'm going to go fight. And so that is just what addiction does. And I think for this gentleman, I would love to see some action behind it, because he also has an incredible voice that he can add. He runs a huge business in Utah. And with that, I would love to see someone just say, hey, man, I own that. What a stupid thing. What can I do to shed light on what you're doing? And so I love the fact, the way that you guys have handled this, but I don't feel like, in my personal opinion, the ownership's there and he's been educated. Anybody can say sorry.
Yeah.
That's what the facts are.
You bring up a good point. You bring up an excellent point. And that's part of the heartbeat, I think, to all this, is that once you can step up to the plate and really think about it, in all walks of life, all three of us at one point in time had to come take a knee, throw up that surrender flag and say, teach me. Sometimes it was the back of a cop car. Other times it was staring your face, in a place where you thought, how did I get here? Other times it's being accountable to your loved ones. Each of us have had to surrender and say, I don't have it figured out. I was wrong. Help me. That is not, I think we gloss over that way too fast. Think about it. That redemption story about how each of us, in our own degrees of variation, had to one day say, I don't have all the answers here. I need help. We had to shut up, and then we had to listen, and then we had to produce. We had to act on those things. That's what bothers me about this situation, is that it's got to be intimidating to have such, I think, I don't know, like an outpouring of support, and then to a certain degree, some vindictive mindsets towards him who made the choice to do all this. But on the same breath, that means that something can happen, because no one is so far removed from wanting to teach and to help heal that they would say, oh, you're reaching out for some understanding. No, we'll screw you. None of us would be like that. It's got to be super intimidating also, if you don't know Max, to have Max jump on and be like, dude, all right, you have my attention now. What do you want to do with it? I had one of my athletes reach out and say, he was like, why did he do this for the Make-A-Wish program? And I said, I don't think he did it for the Make-A-Wish program. I think it defaulted to that. And he was a little bit upset about well, can you guys, get that money to put it into agents. I'm like, we don't want to. I mean, it would have been great, but that was still going to go somewhere positive. But it's also kind of strange that he used it to his advantage still. And I thought, well, we're going to take the higher road and be cool with that. But then we'll say, hey, there's another option here too, which after Max's letter brought more people to the conversation and to the table. So it doesn't matter about what we gain out of this. What we truly want to pursue is to help people understand that this is still a huge problem in 2021. And it's going to continue to get bigger and bigger each year until we put the brakes on it, take a knee and start listening. Don't you think, Max?
Yeah, well said. So a couple things coming up. First of all, he did apologize publicly, and he did send me a text message apologizing. He asked me to do a joint endeavor with Make-A-Wish, which I don't think is a good idea. I'm not going to do. I didn't respond right away. I waited till the next day to write my response and get it right, because I wanted to make sure that I portrayed the things that I was really feeling. So, but I forgive the guy. I do. I'm not holding a grudge against this guy, right? It's not worth, the time and energy for me to hold on to a grudge. I forgive him. Absolutely. Just like people forgave me with my mistakes. However, I was held accountable for every single one of my decisions and my mistakes. It wasn't hey, Max, okay, you're sorry. Let's move on. My wife didn't say, oh, okay, you're sorry. Good. Everything's back to normal. Let's just move on. That's just not how it works.
Yeah.
Not how it works. People are willing to forgive and to move on, but they want to see you take accountability for your actions. Okay. And that's not just saying sorry. Okay. So that with the accountability part, I thought it was awesome what BYU and Utah fans did, almost to kill them with kindness sort of a thing. Let's donate to Make-A-Wish, which is a great, organization, and then they threw in there, hey, for Max and Kenzie or whatever, to kind of say this donation is for this. And I don't know if that benefits him directly, but it definitely benefits him with his foundation and what he's trying to do. So the thought was, hey, that's great. But instead of me coming and doing a Make-A-Wish thing with you, which I feel like would just be set up and not genuine, let's put your time and energy into something that's productive in the world of addiction. So that's why I challenged him. Hey, how about you match that money instead of let's match that money to Agents of Recovery, to this podcast that we're doing, so that we can advertise, we can do different things to get our message out to other people.
Yeah.
So that was the thought. Hey, if you really want to make this right, here's something you can do. Now, whether he does it or not, that's 100% on him.
Yeah.
100%. Okay. He can decide what type of a person he wants to be, what accountability he wants, and what reputation he wants. Regardless, I'm over it. I forgive him. I'm ready to move on, but I'm not ready to move on from addiction and from our spotlight that we have right now of embracing recovery and helping those who really need help, because we all know this thing is ugly. I think of my addiction and where I was at and the type of life that I was living and how it almost destroyed me. It was that close, almost destroyed me. And I think of all the help and guys like you who reached out and were able to kind of help me get back on that path. So that's what we want to do here. It is what it is, but accountability must be held for all of us who make mistakes or make bad choices. And guess what? If you're accountable and you're open and honest with it, people will forgive you. They love to see that. They want to see redemption stories. They want to see you change.
We need it. We need those, don't we?
Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And listeners, we see that on social media. You guys are jumping on here. Don't be shy. Jump on. Follow the links to the webinar. Let's pull you into this discussion. This is your podcast. We do this for you guys. Don't be afraid of Max and Brock. I know that they're kind of scary. I'm the calm one here. Jump on here, ask some questions. You've got 3 people who are in the industry of addiction recovery and advocacy. Jump on. So don't be shy. Brock, what are you hearing, man?
Man, I have so much to say. First of all, this guy wasn't alone in this. Okay. And that was the first thing that I noticed when I saw him post that picture. He was with another friend, right? This friend was also repping this shirt. And what makes me giggle is this dude's taking a lot of heat. Where's his friend at stepping up saying, listen, bro,
It's a good point, bro.
I was also there. I kind of made a bad decision too. And, and it's just funny because we have a lot of influence on our friends, and we don't know the story behind it. We just know that there was two of them, and they were both excited to be wearing it because the picture surely demonstrates that.
Speaks 1,000 words.
It speaks 1,000 words. And you know what I find funny is this world that we've taken a shift from personal ownership, right? Everything is minimized, and we try to gloss over everything. And I appreciate, Max, I appreciate your value and your ownership. Number one, your recovery was not private.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
So here's what's funny. This guy, as soon as there became a little bit of heat, changed his name, blocked himself from social media.
Good point.
Did everything he could to backpedal and say, whoa, I want to take this off me. Instead of saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to nut up. Sorry, I know it's Sunday, but I'm fired up. Like, I own this. I made a bad decision. I did this. I made it look bad. He could have so much for his kids. He could add so much value like kids. This is what a great teaching point. I know he has kids. I know he has a family. This could be an amazing tool for him to say, look, guys, this was a part of my life. I screwed up. I'm going to take ownership. This is how I'm going to do it. And what's funny is Max offered this guy two things. Very simple. Put your money where your mouth is and put your time where your mouth is, right? Money's a big thing, but your time matters. Your time, hey, you can pick, any one of us. Max and I will fly up to Utah. This is an invitation from Max and I. It can't be on a Friday night because we have football, right, Max? You know
Kids
that.
are busy.
Right? But
Be a
here's what I
weekend.
can do. But it can be a weekend. I'll fly up and we'll take you. We'll even do this in Utah. Or if you feel more comfortable of skipping out of Utah, we can do the same thing in Arizona because there's millions of us. And let us take you to different homes and let you sit with these folks that are affected by addiction, that are walking in addiction. And that's what I want this guy to understand is the reason we're passionate is because the price of admission to this club almost took our lives.
Yeah.
And so it's a passion that we have. So if he's hearing this, like you said, Max, we have no hard feelings, but I want to educate you. Put your money and your time where your mouth is. And for anybody else out there, BYU, Utah fans, thank you for doing that. You can also get involved. If you need information, if you want to see what it's like, you can reach out to any one of us. The three of us work together. Blu's program, Brock's program, it's all one program. We want to find sobriety, and that's the mission here.
Well, it is. And I love what you said about kind of trying to hide. And I'm sure, Max, you wanted to. I know I did. I know when my lies caught up with me, the last thing I wanted to do was be accountable. And I remember, because they all kind of came out at once. And there was a few people that I had such respect for that I had face-to-face lied to that I had to call them. I remember one time Marissa was right next to me and I had to call a mentor of mine and say, hey, look, I haven't been honest with you. This is where I'm coming from. This is why, this is what I'm learning. And I just need you to know. And he was like, Blu, thank you. He's like, that makes perfect sense. I totally understand. And I remember having that fear of once this is out, I'm really going to get drug across the coals. I found the opposite. I found I understand, I get it, I'm with you, all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't easy. So, I mean, Max, I remember you told us in your story on this podcast, it didn't come out right away, but when it did hard. And the people that truly knew you that came out, those are the ones that I think we owe a lot of gratitude with. The people that stand beside us. And I found, you guys, I don't know if this is true in your own worlds, I found the ones who don't understand and the ones that are so upset and vindictive and vicious with this kind of stuff are the ones that have been affected by it vicariously. It's someone that they've loved it, they've watched go through it. They don't know how to act, they don't know what to do. And so they respond with that spite and with that anger. is kind of an interesting thing, but what do you think, Max? Brock brings up a good point. You couldn't have changed your name and went and hid. It wouldn't have worked, right?
Yeah, I have a few thoughts. No, it wouldn't have. I didn't have a choice. And it's very similar to this situation. As soon as it happened, it went everywhere, right? Newspapers, TV stations, Twitter, everything was blown up. Everybody saw it, just like this situation that we're going through right now. And so I decided that, in my opinion, I didn't have a choice but to own this thing, accept it, and to just start the work, right? And then let the time build after that. But yeah, I couldn't, what was I going to do? It was out there. I could either hide and people just have this, they have this image of me or whatever. They have these thoughts of me, and it would stay like that forever. And I didn't want that, because I believed I had something more in my life and more to give, and people to be accountable to with my family. So going back to this thing, when I first saw the tweet or the post, and my initial reaction was, yeah, that's kind of messed up. And then my next thought was, what's going on in this guy's life to where he feels like he needs to do this to somebody else to be funny? Like, what, something's going on with this guy. And, I've been ridiculed and made fun of, and people have made posts and pictures for the last 7 years, and I got thick skin, and I've learned to just shrug it off. But the thing that really got me about this one, and what gets me going forward, I could care less what you say about me. I really honestly could care less. But when it gets to the point where it affects my family, right, and it causes issue there, okay, now I got a problem. Now I got an issue. And my wife was the one who really had a problem with it. So I got to give huge kudos to Kenzie, because she was the one that says, hey, we don't need to do this in a mean way, but we need to reach out to this guy. We need to talk to him and see where he's coming from. Let him know that it offended us. And when we were blocked and didn't give that opportunity, we thought, okay, well, then we'll put it public. Maybe somebody can get this message to this guy, so we can understand where we're coming from. So that's how the whole thing.
And what's interesting is if he wouldn't have hidden, none of us would have been aware of this, to be honest with you.
If it would have went nowhere. Messaged Kenzie back, if he would have messaged back with that same sort of, hey, I'm apology,
dead.
Done.
No one would have ever heard about this.
Done.
Ever.
Yep.
But the fact that he hid, and quite honestly disrespected my wife by blocking her when she tried to reach out to him, I said, yeah, do it.
Fine.
Let's go.
Yeah.
If that's the game we're going to play, then that's fine. And you want to know what? Through this, we have an opportunity to get some good stuff out of it, which we have. And I think at the end of the day, there's been more positive than negative, other than me being made fun of. But again, thick skin, whatever.
Yeah,
Okay? So
anyway. I like it. We got our first question in from a viewer right now. It says, can you guys talk about how to lower your pride? To be honest, like, how do you lower your pride so you can get honest? Because so much of us in that addiction is about pride and is about like seeing things bigger, better, faster, stronger than they really are. How do we lower our pride to simply just be honest with ourselves and with those around us? Brock, what comes to mind about being able to lower the pride so that you can be authentic and be honest with yourself and with those around you?
Which really,
great question.
I love this question. In active addiction, I'm sure all three of us would say the same thing. We had no honor.
Yeah.
And that was what we were only as sick as our secrets, man. So we were manipulative and lying to mask and hide our addiction, right? It wasn't until we got sober. We had to take 100% extreme ownership of all that we did, not just some, but I'm talking from the text messages that were sent, the hard feelings that were made, the thefts. I mean, all of that stuff to hiding our addiction. And the only way that you can do that is through, and this is, I'm glad it's Sunday, is through the blood of Christ, man. For me, honestly, having the opportunity to repent to my God and receive forgiveness, because here's the deal, men don't forgive you. I still have an ex-wife that's still mad at me from things I did 13 years ago, and it's never going to change. And there's still people that don't like Max from comments that he made to Utah fans after a win. Okay. People are people, but really it's a personal thing. Integrity is a personal thing that you have to get. And for me, it only came through living an integral life and being honest in all those little things, because it's a total flip from active addiction where you lied about everything. It didn't matter if you were wearing white underwear, you would tell somebody they were red just because you needed to be sneaky about it, right? What were they finding out about me? Max, you're laughing. You know what I'm saying, man?
Lie when the truth sounds better.
Yeah, you lie when the truth is better. So for me, the atonement of Jesus Christ is the biggest thing, man. I had to get honest with God, and I had to stop, and I couldn't get right. I couldn't live a lie and then try to go to church on Sunday and act worthy and act right. So that's where I would go.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think being humbled before God is a very powerful thing. It's a very life-changing thing. It's a mental shift that can give you a different perspective on what's going on around you and in life. There's me too, Brock. I agree 100% that I had to do the same thing. And as we talk about pride, and this is a great question about lowering your pride. Now, I have an opinion on this because I think there's two types of pride, and one's bad and one's good. Okay. I'll start with the bad is boastfulness, right? Thinking that you're better than people, not admitting that you make mistakes, thinking that you're above things, right? And put yourself on this pedestal that you really don't belong. And when you're prideful, you don't take ownership for those things, and you make excuses of why it happened or excuses for your behavior. That's the bad kind of pride, is where you're boastful, okay? And you don't put others before yourself. There's no love, there's no charity, there's no service. It's all about me. It's a very selfish thing, okay? That's the bad part. The good part is something that my dad taught me since I was a little kid. And that is, Max, take pride in who you are and what you're doing. And I think that's good, man. If I'm going to, if we're talking about sports, he meant when we're doing conditioning at the end of practice, take pride in how hard you work. Take some pride in what you do. Don't do anything halfway. Be 100% in and feel good about that. And so for me, had to take pride in my recovery and not let all the negative and naysayers and all the what ifs come into play there. And in order to do that, the first thing I had to do was how to respect myself again, how to get over the fact that I made this huge mistake, and I was a drug addict for years, and I almost ruined my family, and I've hurt my wife, and all my friends and parents and everybody around me, they also had to go through this. This wasn't just me. Like, I affected a lot of people with what I went through, right? So it's like, it's, and we go back to taking the pride in that and getting better and being there. But at the end of the day, started with me. Once I got to the point to where I started respecting myself a little bit, and I was proud of the things that I was starting to do on my path of recovery, that's the good part of it. That's the part where you want to do it for yourself, not being the boastful guy who it's somebody else's fault and I'm bigger than this sort of a thing. So great question. There's my perspective on the two sides of pride there for you.
I like it. I think it's genius. The next question that just posted here. Tell me about what's happened with those who care about you. I think what they're asking specifically is, Max, for you specifically, not just your family, because I've seen your family rally around, but how has this played out with the young ones you're coaching? Because now they're watching not their coach teach them how to hit plays on the football field. They're also watching how you're reacting and responding to stuff on a personal level. How are you navigating that? I mean, that's kind of an interesting thing. They're seeing you keep your head up, not just during game day, but during life. There's got to be a ton of lessons there that you're coaching and teaching beyond just simple plays, I would imagine.
Yeah. There was one of the players responded on Twitter, and he, what do you call it? You quote the tweet, I think is what it is, and then kind of wrote a little thing. And and he's just one of a lot of players who have reached out. But basically, he just said that he was with me. He was proud that I was his coach, proud of what I was doing as a mentor, and that hit me more than anything.
Yeah.
Because it made me feel like I'm doing something right. That I'm actually helping people and kids around me, and so that meant a lot. And I have to realize that I don't just represent myself. I represent my family. I represent my players, my fellow coaches. I represent a school. I represent a community, right? So how I handle myself matters. That's why I'm not trying to go attack this dude, because it's not about me, right? I represent people and I want to do things the right way. And so the feedback actually that Kenzie and I have gotten back has been phenomenal. And people have just been appreciative of how we responded. Not only that, but also, again, the good things that we're doing to come out of this thing. So to be honest with you, it hasn't affected, the people around me in a negative way at all, other than the initial, oh, that was dirty. That was a low blow, other than that, man, I feel like people have rallied around it and have rallied around my wife. And you know what? I'm so thankful and appreciative for Kenzie. And man, she has had my back no matter what for years. And she was the one that was like, I can't, we got to do something about this. And it meant a lot to me for her to have my back on that. So Kenzie, thank you. I love you. It's amazing. And both of you guys can say the same things about your wives, about how they've gone to battle for you guys and stood up and, been there for us. So, man, just kind of bringing back the community, the family, everybody's been really good and supportive in the whole thing.
Yeah, it's the same question, Brock. I mean, like again, residually, you do a lot of good. You do a lot of intervention. You do a lot of public speaking and whatnot. Yet there are still some that don't know what you do. And it's easy to kind of put you in the crosshairs because, it's happened with me and family, my own family and things. So it's like, it's interesting, isn't it? That there's got to be more than passion. There's got to be some kind of purpose here, or else why put ourselves through some of the sticky parts of all this?
Man, that's such a valuable, I learned a little bit from Max this weekend, and I love Max's community. And I saw the message, the tweet by Ty Detmer. And this guy doesn't probably know anything about addiction. He's probably as naive as this other gentleman. Okay. I mean, I'm sure he has players and stuff like that. But what I found interesting is he's a man that wanted to stand up for Max and say, hey, listen, I know Max personally on this level. I didn't know him in active addiction. I know him now. This is who he is. And what's funny is if we did not believe in this cause, we would not put ourselves out there. We would not tell people about our recovery. We would be like most everybody else. We would be quiet. We would be timid. We would be scared. And that's why when this came out, Max and Blue, for me, this is where my mind went. I said, I understand why people don't want to be vocal about the recovery, because there's jackwads. There's people out there that are going to be the ones that bring up their past, right? Oh yeah, but this is what you used to do. I remember when you did that. Listen, Max, you're 8 years or 7 years removed from that. And I understand. So to answer your question, Blue, is my family still has issues. My family still doesn't have a total support because they're so worried about what I'm going to say about the family. Right? How am I going to, if I come out and say, hey guys, I struggled, I had some family issues I struggled with, then they're going to look internally into my family and say, hey, what's wrong with them? And then it's going to hurt the reputation of my family. And it's actually just the opposite. Every one of us struggle. We're all going through it. And what I find interesting is the rally cry that Max had through all this. I love this player, man. I love the fact that his wife was the number one person that said, no, we're done with that behavior. Not okay. We're not going back. That's not who Max is. Know him today. Yeah. And so I'm going to throw that invitation out. If you guys want to know who Max Hall is, come visit Max Hall. Come see him. the coolest thing I got to watch is I went to a Saguaro football game with Max Hall 2 weekends ago. And I recorded Max on the sidelines. He didn't know. It's kind of weird to even tell people, but I was taking pictures of the way people interacted with him. His kids coming up and touching him, loving on him, banging knuckles, and just that vibe that we have, man. We couldn't have done that in active addiction. So watching the way people communicate with you, Max, shows your recovery. And I wish that's what people saw versus the mugshot that you can easily pull up online, brother.
Yeah.
So I support you, man. So thank you.
No, I thank you. And that means a lot to me, because it's taken a lot of hard work to get to that point. And in no way is my work done. In no way. It's not even close. We all know that. But guys, it is not fun to put yourself out there like that. Yeah. You think I enjoy putting it out there and advertising that I was arrested and I was a drug addict? And that's no fun. And that can be hard to talk about sometimes. It sucks. You know what I mean? But I am not going to let what happened to me just cruise by and not use it to help somebody else. Otherwise, why the heck did I do it? Why the heck did this happen to me? I'm not just going to let it be for naught. So that's what I've been trying to do. And again, a lot of hard work in the last 7 years, a lot of work by my family, my wife, and everything that we've done. So let's use this thing. And I try to do it in every part of my life. And, I really don't try to publicize it that much. This was an opportunity for us to do that. But I care about people. I care about the kids I mentor. And I found that the more that I'm outside myself and worrying about, myself and how do I serve the others, the happier I am and the better off. So, Brock, I appreciate you saying that. We've all come a long ways, but man, I've been blessed big time with where I'm at. I'm lucky to be here, but I also don't take it for granted. I'm not there yet,
We got Jackson Carter. Is that Jackson Carter who has a question? You want to bring him on? We'll get Jackson on here to do a live question. We got lots of people submitting questions. Jackson's he's brave enough to come on here.
Oh, he's coming on.
He's here.
Hey,
so
can you guys hear me?
We can, Jackson. Welcome to the Agents of Recovery podcast, brother. What's your question?
Oh, hi. Thank you. I just wanted to ask, I don't know if this relates to you guys, but I wanted to ask, how do you go on about approaching a child that has an addiction? Like my son, he's got a really bad crack addiction. We've tried to get him off it. I don't know how to make him he was only 14. So I don't know how to take him off. I don't want to punish him, you see, because I want to be someone he's able to talk to and come to. He just, I don't know. Anytime I let him out of the house, he just goes back to doing what he does. And I don't know how to, I just wanted to ask, how do you go on about talking to him and emphasizing with him?
Gotcha. Thank you for that question. I know we've all got ideas. Brock, let's have you go first, brother. What are you thinking? How does Jackson approach his son? Then we'll go to Max and then I'll help.
Oh man, this is a deep question, and like I'm not a licensed therapist either.
That's why I want you guys to go first. I want to see if you guys give Jackson good advice here.
But here's what I'd say, man. I'm also a father, and I have some older children around Jackson's son's age, and as a father and as a recovering addict, the way I would do it face to face, head on, as open and honest as I can be, non-judgmental. Telling him, hey, brother, son, I love you. I want to get you help. What can I do to help you? I would rather have him come to me and be 100% rigorously honest than hide it. That way I can help him. I can develop a plan with him. And so for me, that's the way I would attack it, is that communication.
Mm-hmm. And to piggyback off that, Brock, that's exactly what came to my mind too, because I think of my dad when I was going through all this. And my dad never once came to me and pointed the finger and said, what the hell are you doing? You're killing yourself, our family. You know what I'm saying? He never did that. He never got in my face and like screamed at me or chastised me or anything. He always came from a place of love. And I knew he was there. I knew he would do anything for me. And I knew he loved me and I could be open and honest with him. And sometimes that's hard to do, Jackson, especially with a 14-year-old. Like, I'm sick to my stomach right now thinking that someone who's 14, probably junior high, maybe 9th, 10th grade, something like that, is going through this. So I would just suggest try to sit him down, like Brock said, have multiple conversations with him, introduce him to the podcast and maybe stories of other people who've been through it, and let him know, hey, this is something that we can get through, but if we let it keep going, you're going to end up in 3 places, my brother. You're going to end up dead, in prison, or in a rehab, and hopefully you end up in a rehab, right? So kill him with a little bit of kindness. You have to have boundaries, you got to set rules, but he has to know that when he's ready and the time comes, you are willing to do whatever it takes for him to start his path of sobriety.
Excellent. You guys are doing great. Bro, did you have something before I jump in? Okay. So Jackson, first and foremost, brother, thank you for having, I guess that courage to jump on here. It's never an easy thing, and you're not alone. There's a lot of listeners that are in that same situation. I love what these guys are talking about. I've worked with youth for a majority of my career. And the best thing that you should start off right out the gates, what these guys are talking about relationships before rules. I mean, you have a relationship with your son, use it. Sometimes we feel like, well, 14 years old, there's so much they're going on, but I like to figure out where they are right now. There's definitely some role confusion on who he is and what he's doing right now. That's kind of like taking away from him becoming who his identity is supposed to be. So first and foremost, that relationship before rule means that we have a little sit down, and before we jump in with all the rules, we have that relationship of like, son, I love you. I am so concerned. Help me understand what you're going through. I've noticed that when people, even kids, use any kind of substance, it's a little bit of a window on what they're going through. So crack is a stimulant, and it's one of these things too that's so addicting, and the high is so short that this is a kid that's probably having a hard time blending in and needing to be involved. And so maybe it's also a part of him to like be in a crowd or in a situation. And that's the mechanism that he's using. So it's about finding out where the self-worth and the self-esteem are. I like rewinding the tape. And Jackson, if you can have an open and honest conversation with him, the first thing I would ask him is, when did you actually start using? When's the first time you used anything? And then 20 years of doing this, I've noticed there's patterns to this. On average, by the time you find out that your son has an addiction, it's an average of 2 years that they've been using before parents even know. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less, but it's a slow kind of transition. It's like that doesn't just happen all at once. It's a slow kind of burn. And so I go backwards a little bit. The first time they ever used anything, I rewind the tape about 2 years, and I find what I call the activating event, something that happened that hurts. And the neat thing about this is, although you'll have stewardship in it because you're a parent, it's not your fault. These are the things that they find work for them after some kind of trauma, after some kind of pain, after some kind of emotional experience. It takes about 2 years before they find a substance that kind of fills that void. So if you can figure out about how old he was when he first started using, you can say, tell me about life. Was there a divorce involved? Was it a moving in school? Was it a friendship change? You can literally drill down and find the activating event and maybe help change their perspective on it, maybe give some of that guidance. That's where you find out the core of it. Obviously, at a 14-year-old, you've got to put the brakes on this because it could, that's a heavy drug to come out of the gates with. And a lot of people say, well, marijuana is the gateway drug. Not anymore. A gateway drug is everything under the sun. There's no such thing as a gateway anymore. So I would say, let's find out where the source of this is. And then we fill the void of whatever feeling he's erased and replace it with what should authentically be there. Jackson, you can definitely reach out to us on our social media pages if you want more information. We've got lots of content. Yeah, lots of content on our website, addicttoathlete.org, for specifically teen issues. So don't be shy. And if we can help, just give us a message. We'll give you our numbers.
We'll do. I don't want to drag out the question too much, but it's really hard for me, obviously. I've listened, and I think I've got a plan in mind to deal with little Lucas. The problem is it's really hard to sit down and talk to him when he's very violent. I think he's got some sort of ADHD. When we checked him when he was younger, he's very, very violent.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever he throws a fit, one time he stabbed his little sister with a knife. She's only 6, so it was quite difficult. I tried to restrain him. It made him even more angry. I don't know what to do about this.
Well, see, that makes a lot of sense because, again, crack cocaine is a stimulant. He's self-medicating. Exactly. He's 100% self-medicating. And it may sound silly and weird, but he probably feels normal when he's under the influence because everything slows down. So we completely understand. And I'm not sure where you're calling from, but get some hands-on boots on the ground help too. It's not over. He'll be okay if we get the interventions now.
Thank you. That's some nice reassurance there.
Yeah. And if we can help, let us know. We're here for you.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
We'll do.
Thank you,
Take
Jackson.
care, brothers.
See you, Jackson.
Thanks, Brock.
See, so listeners, that's kind of what we're talking about. And it's neat to hear that there's some trust in what we're doing here. And that's why it's so important, don't you guys think, that like more people share this kind of stuff, because we're all connected somehow. It breaks your heart, but that's the reality. And there's no way I'd throw Lucas's picture on a t-shirt and be like, look at this. I mean, come on, right?
Hey, you know what was cool about that? This is what I love about this. I don't know if Jackson would have had the courage or the thought to reach out. Maybe something we did got him to have some motivation to reach out. And, I wish the best for Jackson, and Jackson, get him with somebody. He needs some help. And maybe after he talks to somebody else for a while, he'd be more open to talk to you. So sometimes we have to take a step back and let the professional, work on it a little bit. So, but I think, this is why we do this, Blu, right, Brock?
You're right.
This is why we do this to help other people. So I appreciate him calling in.
Right. We have a few more in the queue. So if you guys in the queue, I think we got Gary and if you guys and Marissa, if you guys want to ask a question, just raise that little hand. We'll know that you want to come on board. But Brock, I could tell, man, it crushes your heart a little bit, doesn't it? That there's so many out there that struggle with this, that don't know where to turn.
Yeah, it's almost like a rally cry, and it's so hard to have that initial conversation as a parent about addiction. It really is. My parents, they didn't even know. And most parents don't know. They see this behavior change. They see that their child is different, and they don't know how to pinpoint it. Is it now they're going to a new school? Is it they're growing up? And it's so hard if you're not in constant communication with your kids. And so I love it, man. I love the fact that people would be willing to come on. But I guess I kind of wanted to go back to you, Max, and ask you a question. You came out and I know on top of being a football coach, you also do a lot of, I don't want to call it counseling because you have to have a license, but you do a lot of coaching off the script. And what are you seeing, man, in the high schools and in the school that you're at? I don't want to pinpoint your school, but what are some of the concerns the parents and students are coming with you about?
The biggest thing that I've noticed is that there's a disconnect between the kids and the parents. There's a huge disconnect. And, the kids and the things that they do on social media and on the internet and everything that they have access to, it's very easy for them to slip up and get involved in something that they shouldn't. And now the last thing that they want to do is go tell their parents about it. Right. So that disconnect is very hurtful. And these kids sometimes are just looking for somebody to talk to or to be honest about it, because if something like that is going on and you're keeping it a secret, it's just like begging to come out of you sometimes. But sometimes the parents aren't the right people to hear that. So I would just urge the parents, and Kenzie and I tried to do this the best we can. Our kids are getting ready to be teenagers and we hope it continues, but we try to sit down and talk to our kids. At the age of 10 and 11, my kids know what cocaine is. They know what vaping is. They know what pornography, you know what I'm saying? Because we've had those hard conversations. And again, this kid that we were just talking about, Blu, if it's really 2 years, he could have started when he was 12 or 13 years old on crack cocaine.
True.
Are you kidding me? Like, that is so sad for me to hear. And he's obviously has a lot of issues that he's got to work through. But that's the biggest thing I see, Brock. If we're going to talk about the youth, it's that. Now, if we talk about just, older people or friends or guys that are married and have families or girls, they get in a rut, in my opinion, and then they get distanced from their spouse. And then there's that lack of communication is so big for me. I think it's huge, but there's that lack of communication there. And then it just kind of drops from there. And then you're unhappy. And then you're looking to self-medicate. And then you get involved in this. And now there's more and more secrets and more lying, and it ruins families. It does. It's exactly what happened to me. It got to the point to where I went from being 100% a trustworthy guy to 99.9% of what came out of my mouth was a lie, because I'm trying to cover up or whatever. And that's where you just disconnect and you lose that relationship, which is causing a lot of these issues with pornography and drugs and alcohol and anything else you can get your hands on to help ease that pain, that depression, that suffering that you're going through. So that's kind of what I've noticed the most. With those.
Well, what you're talking about, Max, especially specifically with adults, is there's a funny little developmental stage we go through from age 20 till about age 40, 45, and that's called intimacy versus isolation. In a relationship, either you have that emotional intimacy where you're comfortable in the silence, you can kind of, regulate, engage your spouse's rhythm of their heartbeat. You just get it because you guys are empathic together, or there's a sense of distance and you begin to isolate. And you can be very married and together and have a spouse that isolates in addiction or just in behaviors. And so you've got to rewind the tape and you got to find out, okay, where did this start? Typically in teenage life, right? Identity versus role confusion. If you are a role confused teenager from age 12 to age 19, chances are you're going to be an adult that isolates. And that's kind of a crazy thing. So you rewind it a little bit more. That age 10, 11, 12, so crucial in development. That's a developmental stage called industry versus inferiority. Industry means you're part of something. You get to see it all the time with your kids that are playing with you. You see like they're part of something. But that's just one part. That's a football team. They've also got to be part of a family, maybe part of a collective, religious or clergy type experience, also a friendship group. There's got to be more industry than just one paradigm. And so you can kind of see how the inferiority can turn into role confusion, can turn into isolation. And so we got to know what makes us tick. And your addiction pushes you from that intimacy, that emotional intimacy, into isolation. Yeah. We've all seen that, and it's a scary thing to be in, I would say. What do you think, Brock?
You want to know what I'm really thinking? Because I'm going to tell you.
You usually speak the truth.
I usually do. I wish my man from Utah was listening to this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I really do. In the back of my head, I've seen him on social media, and I guess I'm talking to everybody out there. He's got young kids. He, as a parent, will face these same trials and issues that we've all faced.
Yeah.
And I wish people would be able to take time to listen to the message that we're sharing. This stuff is real. It has affected all of us. And so I wish that he could get this information and hear it. I'm sure he's got kids that are almost at this age. And as a father, it is our obligation to protect our family.
Yeah.
And I love that we have that opportunity now, because in active addiction, we didn't. And so for me, it's emotional, man. I'm like, I just hope that people can see through our experience and our issues that we went through, that they don't ever have to go through what we've been through.
Yeah.
Because of this message.
Right. You're right. So panelists, we've got Crystal Hall in the queue, Melissa and Steve. If you guys have questions, raise your hand. We'll pull you over. It sounds like you might know one of those, Max.
Yeah, it looks like my mom jumped on here. How you doing?
We should
Mom?
definitely have Max's
but,
mom.
But Brock, I had a good comment on what you just said, and really hitting home when you said, us as guys, we're supposed to protect our family, right? Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? Sometimes, and this is a big part of the communication, sometimes we have to be open and honest about our own mistakes, and see those kids have to see that we're vulnerable too, and we're humans, right? That we're not put on a pedestal, like we're better than our kids, right? And honestly, since Mike, I had to have that conversation with my kids and tell them, yeah, dad was arrested. I was addicted to drugs. Should have seen the look on their faces when I told them that. And I'm crying the whole time. That was a really hard thing to go through. But I think I hope and I think that my kids have a little bit more respect and understanding of who I am and where I've come from. And they see dad standing up and on podcasts and talking about it and giving firesides. And they're like, okay, my guy made a mistake. He's learned from it and he's using to teach it. And because I'm open about my situations, we're hoping that the kids feel good about coming to us if something happens to them, because they know mom and dad have been through it and they've made mistakes and it's okay. So just a thought that I had when you were bringing up the protection part, Brock, is sometimes that means being vulnerable, not being the stern, you know what I mean? Like mean parent, but obviously there's got to be lines and there's got to be parenting going on, but at the same time, show some vulnerability, tell your kids something that you've gone through and they'll respect you more.
And that's why Kinsey stepped up for you this weekend. Well done, Kinsey.
Yeah,
man. I love it.
But that's the thing. Maybe that's the thing. All right, Kinsey, I'm calling you out. We got to slide you over here because I have a question for you. So, Kinsey, I hope you're not like in there making dinner and you were just listening vicariously because we're
and we got to get
over.
Crystal over here too, because Crystal says I want to ask the question, but I'm scared.
Yeah. Mackenzie, one of the things that I know about you, because we've talked about this briefly, is that you don't really stir a lot of that controversy. You don't really stew in that. This was different, and I think that it was a pretty amazing. Why this time? Why this time? Because there's been 1,000,001, I think, attempts that you could have done in the past, but there was something different about this one. What was it? What made you say, "Wait, not okay with me"?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Hey guys. So I would say that game was one of the best experiences that we've ever been able to have with our son Rex. It was really cool to be able to, I think I never thought that Rex would be able to see his dad in that element of the football player, because he was in my belly when he was a senior at BYU. And so I just never thought that would, he'd never be able to see that. But when we walked into the BYU stadium, and this was like 45 minutes before the game, so it's literally us three walking in by ourselves to go meet some people, the stands went crazy for Max. And I'm getting emotional thinking about how just I was so proud of him that they weren't cheering for him for his football accomplishments. They were cheering for him for everything that he's been through since then. And it was really cool for me to be in that moment with him and for Rex to be able to see that. And then, obviously the rest of the night was so fun. And then going back to that hotel room and getting tons of like awesome Twitter things that all the people that were taking pictures and selfies with Max all night. And then he gets that tagged in the one with that picture. And I just, right when I saw that, my heart just sunk. And that picture is a huge trigger for me. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the worst days in our lives. And so I just think that that's where my kind of mama bear or wife bear, if you call it, kind of jumped into, that's not right. I'm not gonna just stand back and let this happen. And so, and then most of all, knowing that I was just with my son at the game and that he could have seen that. And he knows what that picture is. We've talked about it with him, like Max just said. And so if he would have saw that, that would not have been right. And that's what I messaged him is, how do you think we would have felt if you saw us and you're wearing that? And So yeah.
I have a question for you. Like we talked about this, you were listening. If he hadn't have blocked you and it just allowed that message to come and had an exchange between both of you, do you think it would ever have reached what it did? Or do you think it would have been ended there?
Oh, I would have 100% ended there. And that's really all I wanted, was just for him to acknowledge what he did and for him to, just apologize. And it would have, for sure, I would have never posted it publicly if he would have apologized. But I just felt like that when he blocked me, I am not, before this, I had 2 Twitter followers. I'm pretty sure it was Max and his mom. I opened a Twitter years ago and never, ever even posted on it. It was more to like see articles like when Max was playing. And so, so when I posted, I honestly was like, I just kind of hope if I tag him, because when he blocked me, it never showed that he read it. And so I'm like, I just want him to be able to see this message. And I had no idea that this is what it would turn into. But I think that because of what happened, it turned into some really cool things too. And so, I'm glad that there's more awareness now of everything that you guys are trying to accomplish, and more awareness of addiction and recovery, and that it is possible to be in recovery. So
cool. And you're part of that, so don't say us. It's a we thing. You, Marissa, and Maren, very much a part of the agents team. While we got Mackenzie on here, do you want to bring over Max's mom too? We'll get both perspectives. We won't kick Mackenzie off quite yet.
So Mackenzie, while you're doing that, I do have a question for Mackenzie about this, and thinking about the other side of the table, his wife, this young man that decided to wear this. What would you say? What would you say to his wife? Because I know that she knows what's going on. She's feeling this. She's hearing this. What would you say?
Well, and honestly, I've thought about her so many times this week, and I really, and I even, he actually had a friend, one of his friends reached out to me and had asked some questions or whatever, and I had replied, and I just said, I know exactly what it feels like to have mistakes be out in the open, out in the public. And I know it sucks. And I felt really sorry that I, didn't mean to cause any harm to his wife or their family, because that, I know how that feels. And, but I also know, and I just talked to Max about this week, that I've had so many people reach out, saying my husband, and not just this weekend, but in the last few years of, my husband's going through this, what can I do? And what can and I would say, I talked to Max about this, that everything that we went through, it was really, really hard, and I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. Addiction is a terrible, evil thing. But I would do it all over again if I knew that we would be where we are today in our relationships, in our marriage, and how strong we are. And I'm a completely different person. And I really don't think I would have been there where I am without everything that we went through. And so I'm grateful for trials. And I know that that's why we're here on earth. And I tell my kids every day that it's okay to make mistakes. Like, that's why we're here. We're not supposed to be perfect. We're supposed to make mistakes, and we're supposed to go through really hard things, because those hard things are what make us stronger and what make us become better people. And so as hard as I'm sure their family has gone through the ringer this week, I really, truly hope that it does make them better. And hopefully it makes them stronger, and that they're able to overcome and do some things with it. So.
Dang.
Wow.
Dang.
Max, you are a lucky man, my brother. You are a lucky man. That is a strong testimony. Thank you for sharing that, Mackenzie.
Yeah, Mackenzie, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, let's hear from Crystal Hall, Max's mom, I think. Yeah. Welcome to the podcast.
Quit it, Max.
Look, he's just looking at that. He's like,
my mom just coming to battle, I guess, today. I love it. So.
I've enjoyed that, Max. I'll be honest with you. I've seen a few of your mom's posts, and it just warms my heart. I'm like, that's awesome. Welcome to the show.
Max is in the doghouse because he told me it started at 3:00. Well, it's 3:00 right now.
That might have been my fault. I didn't know that Arizona and Utah are Mountain Standard Time, but we celebrate flipping what's it called? Daylight savings time. So we're behind the curve there.
That's okay. Right. I guess I can listen to it later, right?
Oh, for sure.
The rest of it. Okay. Yeah, that was, I second everything that Mackenzie just said. She's amazing. And I'd rather just say amen to what she said and be done.
Yeah. Well, Brock had a question for you, I think. Brock, better make it appropriate. Brock. Max is listening.
Man, I just want to know, as a mom, how did you get through it? I know Max's addiction was open and honest, and how did you get through it as a family? What did you say to one another, you and your husband? I mean, first of all, I know your husband is an amazing man. Max always is talking, man, I get emotional because I have a relationship with my father as well. And I know that Max has a deep admiration, appreciation for you guys, but how did you get through it? Because it was so vocal, so audible, and so visual. What did you guys do to plant yourself?
Well, that's a hard question, because really when this all happened to us, we had never had an experience with this in our lives. So we really didn't know how to deal with it, or where to turn, or what to do for him. And being his mom, it was very painful, to watch. And I'm very grateful that I had my husband to kind of guide us through it, because he really is. He's a great man. And watching your son go through something like that, it's hard. And especially when he's married, so he's got his wife, so which I'm so grateful for. You kind of have to kind of stand by and watch, and just love and support. And we were grateful for the people that reached out to help us and to walk us through it, and to, give us counsel and advice, and the support that we needed, because I don't know what we would have done without all of that.
And, I think about that, if I can jump in, I think about the comments that maybe they got when I was arrested, or what people said to them. And I'm sure there was a lot of people with love and support, but I'm also sure that there were jabs taken, just because those people are out there. And so when I talk about how this thing affected not just me, but everybody, you can see and you can hear in the voices of, my wife and mom who are on here, just how hard that was and difficult to deal with. And so again, it's just not something you make fun of. It's not something you take lightly, because there are moms and wives and husbands, brothers, sisters, there's all kids out there who we had so much support. I couldn't believe the amount of people that came out of the woodworks that have been through similar situations that we had no idea had been through it. And the support and the love that we got once it all came out was amazing. And yeah, I saw a few little things on social media that were jabs at Max that were hurtful. But for the most part, really, the people that reached out, it was amazing. And, I just think until you've been through something like this with a loved one or a friend, you just don't understand it. And, like this gentleman in Utah, I just don't think that they think about, if I do this, what are the consequences going to be? Who will this affect? You just don't think about it. And now, having gone through it, ever since we've gone through this with Max and watched him and Kinsey just battle through this and everything, it's just put a huge soft spot in my heart for people who are going through this. And it makes me really want to reach out, and it makes me really want to help and be involved, and in any way that I can. I've got some friends that are battling with this, and it just makes you more aware and more compassionate towards those people.
Dang. It blows me away to hear both perspectives of that, and it's something that shouldn't be taken lightly. And I highly doubt that when he was pulling that shirt over his head, he thought there'd be this much like love and support for the person whose face donned the shirt. So it blows me away that that it's there. Then you guys, you do care. You care enough to get on and talk about it and to not run from it. And it's refreshing. And I hope the listeners, I hope you are hearing the love that's here for someone that needs a whole team to recover, to ultimately heal. So, Brock, thoughts?
Yeah, man. First of all, that's chilling, Max. This wasn't scripted. You didn't know your mom and your wife. We knew Kinsey has a voice, but hearing it from your mom, and it's just so raw. Even the amount of time that you have sober, it's still on the forefront. It's still a concern that this could happen again, right? Or it could happen to another family member. And to be able to have this platform and to share it with other people is awesome. I love that the question that Blue said is, hey, do you think the guy when he woke up that morning thought putting on this shirt would? I'm glad he did. I mean, I am. I'm glad he did, because you know what? You're the guy to handle it. And we've already said that you can handle this. If it happens to somebody else, imagine a Facebook post that they see and they're like, oh my gosh, they're plastering. This is bullying. This is hazing. I should just commit suicide. I'm not worth it. I'm not valuable. Yeah. And that's where our world is at. And I'm glad that he did it to you. And I'm glad that there's another side of this. And there's so many BYU and Utah fans that are stepping up and saying, listen, man, this isn't right. This isn't what it's about. This isn't who we are as a population. And I guess that's my thing is, people have to understand that this recovery, this addiction is real, but there's hope, man. And I wish that guy that put the shirt on, I don't even want to mention his name because it frustrates me, but I wish he would understand, and I wish he could walk in our shoes, and it's impossible until he, and I know that you said, God forbid that he ever has to do this or he ever has to watch his child, but I hope if he does, you're the first guy he reaches out to.
And I would hope he would too. And I would do everything that I could to help. And once again, I am over. There is no ill will. I have given this guy. I get mistakes are made. And, but you can obviously see how it's affected my family, how it's affected everybody around me. And we shouldn't be taken lightly, but I agree with you, Brock. If there's people out there listening to this, or if you know somebody, man, the more experience I have with it, when people admit they have a problem and that they want help, 99% of the people want to help and will love you and help you. And so if you're out there thinking that you're alone or nobody's going to understand, or you're afraid to get this secret out there, fear of being judged or embarrassed or whatever, that's not the case. You will have people around you. You will find a team that will support you and you will be okay. So hopefully listening to this and seeing, my wife and my mom and how they've handled the situation, what they've said, that there's nothing but love out there and help waiting for you if you're wanting to really change your life and get sober. So,
yeah. One question, and I know we're running out of time here. We'll wrap up in a moment, but someone asked, with the fundraising efforts, because it says that things have shifted and the Agents of Recovery is raising money through Addict to Athlete, the nonprofit program and portion of Agents. What are we doing with it? It's a great question, because there's a lot that needs to be done, from hosting this podcast to produce more content for people to be able to give back, to help our communities. I mean, right now we have the Take 10 initiative, and Brock's rocking it down there in Arizona. We're doing it up here in Utah, where we find people who need help. And with the monies raised, more could be done, from food to housing to treatment. There's so many avenues that this can go to get people maybe that hand of fellowship, or that path of redemption. Everyone needs an underdog story. All of us do. And the people I find that are most inspiring are the ones that overcome like significant trials in life. And so we want to hear more of them. We want to hear more of your stories, because we're not the only three that have overcome this and continue to work on it every day. So that those funds, they're not just going to go into a bank account so that Brock can drive a Porsche 911. They're there so that we can create and produce more to help more people. That's what it goes to. And with it or without it, we're going to keep producing, because we feel the bigger picture is to extend that fellowship to one another. Isn't that kind of the goal, Brock? I mean, to really get out further?
Yeah, and that's why I invited this young man to show up, to suit up, to put his money where his mouth is, because I want to, and I can speak like this because I don't know the guy. I would love to meet him. I'd love to sit down, break bread with him. I would love to take him around and show him what's really about, what addictions really looks like, the amount of people really affected by it. This 93,000 people is not a stat. It's real. Go walk your parks in Utah. Have enough pride in yourself to learn more about this, to take some initiative, to go down to your parks. Invite Max and I up. We'll come up to Utah. We'll walk with you. I mean, seriously, like, this is what we want to do. We want to spread hope. We want to spread a message. and we want to let you know that you can overcome addiction. But the problem is you can't do it alone. You can't run. You can't hide. You have to be willing to do what the three of us did and said, listen, man, I have an addiction. I need help and I can't do it alone. And that's where we're asking for businesses and the donors. If you want to put into us, the money will be spent helping other people in addiction. That's it.
Absolutely. Max.
Yeah. And that's why we started this thing.
Yeah.
I went on Blu's podcast, Brock. I think you talked with him or he came on yours. And then so we kind of had this connection, and then Brock brought us together and said, we can do something very positive out of this thing. We can change lives. And I wanted to be a part of that. I know Blu did. So we said, let's get this thing together. And we're in this to help people. I'm not doing this for me or for Brock or for Blu, even though we're great friends and these are great guys. The whole goal is to help people and be honest and real and raw and open about our experiences, because people can relate to that. And when people relate to that, maybe they'll be like, hey, I can do this. Or I've given some information and some direction on how I can help my child or my brother or whatever. So we're not in this to make, like, we're not asking this guy to do this to make money. That's not what it is. But with money, we can widen our platform. And the more people that we can get to and who maybe listen to this and say, hey, yeah, I need to, my son's struggling. Let's go get him with Blu. Or, hey, my brother can't get his life together. Let's get him with Brock. Or, hey, is there a way we can reach out to Max, DM him or something? Maybe he has some advice for us, because that will change lives. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're not money hungry. We're in this thing to change lives because we're three of the fortunate ones who have gotten through it, and people have helped us. So we want to give back to help those other people who may feel like it's hopeless or there is no help out there, and share that message. And that's the goal with what we're doing with any donations, everything we have going on. It's about other people and seeing if we can make a dent in this, in my opinion, this epidemic of addiction that is just affecting so many lives all around the country, all around the world. So
absolutely. Kids, you're still here. Any final thoughts from you from the bullpen?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep.
Sorry, I just took a bite of a protein bar.
I know. I wait for it, and I'm like, perfect timing.
I really do just want to thank everybody that has shown so much love and support to us through this week, throughout the last few years, in the good times and the bad times. I just am so grateful for all of the support and love that our family has been shown, and I think it's been awesome. And I hope that we can continue this message and get it out to as many people as possible.
Awesome. All right, Miss Hall. I should call you both Miss Hall. We'll call it Mama Hall here. Crystal, do you have any final thoughts for the listeners here? I know she got put back on mute too. Maybe she's sharing the protein bar.
No, can you hear me?
Yep.
I did not take a bite. Okay, yeah, just same what Kinsey said, and I just think that until people have gone through something like this, they maybe don't quite understand. And after watching Max battle something so huge and going and same as you other two guys, battling something so big and overcoming it and being the strong men that you guys are today, it's so impressive. And it warms my heart, and it warms my heart to see all the love and support. And we just have to know that people that make fun of, they just have not experienced it. So just getting the awareness out there and making people, see that it could happen to anybody. And we just have to love and support and find ways to help. And I appreciate what you guys are doing. It's the best.
I love that. That's awesome. Marissa, your mic's on.
Yes.
Final thoughts as you listen to all this.
Oh, this is such a good podcast, you guys. Thank you. Thank you for all of those who came on, who sent in questions. Such good topics that were covered today. But I think it really just comes down to just empathy and understanding. I loved even just one of Max's first thoughts when he saw that is like, what is this guy going through? that he's willing, or that he's in a spot that he would do that to somebody else, but also how sad that, you know, he's willing to do something like that. And who knows where he'll be in a few years, that maybe that's will be where one of his kids or grandkids is at. And we've just got to have, just in general, in more love and understanding and empathy for everybody in the world around us. We just don't know what other people's paths are, where they've walked, where they've been, and what they've been through. And if we can have some empathy for everybody and just love, it's going to be the greatest thing that we can do for this world.
That's where it's at. Listeners, you've been well fed. Thank you all for participating today on the Agents of Recovery podcast. We're here every Friday. We'll probably do this every now and then, now that we can actually see that the live kind of stuff works. I saw many of you pop on and jumped off. Don't be afraid. We're real people. I want to thank the Radio Rona Network for all that they do for the Agents of Recovery and holding the Agents of Recovery on the Radio Rona Network. And we do all of this, all of you listeners, because we are the Agents of Recovery. All right, I'm going to end this